Hi, everyone, and welcome. My name is Sarah Moskel. I'm the Health Education Coordinator for Student Wellness. We'll get started in a couple minutes as we like to just give our peers and fellow Huskies an opportunity to join. So hang tight for a couple more minutes and we will go ahead and get started. Okay, thanks for hanging around. Why don't we go ahead and get started? Welcome to our Coping Through COVID-19 webinar series, all about self-care during this COVID-19 era. And so this is the first in our series, which is Self-Care Basics. If you did join us last semester, this was our first in our series as well. So this will be the same presentation, but new discussions with new people. So I encourage you to stick around if you would like to. Again, my name is Sarah Moskel. I'm the Health Education Coordinator, and we are Student Wellness. So I'm going to go ahead and dive into this presentation. And with this series, I really like to start off by saying it's really hard to be a student right now. It's really hard to be a human being because there's so much going on. I mean, first and foremost, there's a pandemic, but so much has happened. There's been hate crimes, health disparities. We've been in isolation for a while. There's been so many unknowns, and we've been forced to adapt, such as online learning, which is no easy feat. There's been an increase in mental health concerns, a lot of struggles and worries, and trying to balance all of this and more. And so if you are struggling with self-care, know that you are not alone, and that is okay. We are all in the same boat, and so I hope that through today, we'll be able to be in that boat with you and help you out just a little bit more. So what are we going to be talking about today, or what's the aim of this presentation? Well, first and foremost, I want us to be able to create our own definitions of self-care, because we all have different views and different levels of importance of what it means to us. So we'll start there. I then hope that you'll be able to identify what are your body's signs for telling you, okay, it's time to do some self-care, it's time to practice some wellness. So we'll go through those. And we'll wrap up this presentation by talking about a bunch of strategies for self-care. So maybe some of the strategies you're already doing, or we'll show you some new ones. First and foremost, I'd like to ask you all, what is self-care? What does it mean to you? So if you can open up the chat function and type in the chat what self-care means to you. Maybe it's one word, maybe you have a whole sentence, maybe you have a couple of descriptors to describe self-care for you. But go ahead and take a second and put something in the chat, and we'll talk about what it means to us. Okay, I see Marissa and I believe Jalen. Jalen, correct me if I'm wrong, if that's how you pronounce your name. Marissa says, take care of myself, my mental, physical, and emotional health. Oh, thanks, Jalen. Jalen says, self-care to me is doing things that make you happy. Yes, I am the same way. Reese says, positive self-talk. Yeah, I'm hearing a lot of mental and emotional health that really makes us happy and helps us to be more positive. Marissa's adding things that recharge you, make you feel good. Yeah. Oh man, y'all already know what self-care is. I should just stop here. But that's all true. And I'm seeing how we all have different lenses of what it means to us. And here at Student Wellness, we define self-care as the act of supporting your wellness. And that's a whole bunch of things. It's doing things that make you happy. It's utilizing positive self-talk, which is so helpful, and doing things that help you to recharge. And all of those help your wellness, which is essentially this conscious process of trying to achieve your potential. So when you are optimally well, like feeling your best, then you're going to do your best in multiple areas of your life. And you could see that with the graphic on the screen there, which we call that the dimensions of wellness. And those are all areas that comprise you and your well-being. So being healthy isn't just about physical wellness, if you will, but it's about your career aspirations and values, striving to learn more, how you impact the environment, your mental health, how socially well you are and connected with others, and spiritual. And that's not just religious views, but more about having harmony within yourself. So self-care is doing anything to support those areas of wellness. And so essentially, the big point I want you to take away about self-care is that self-care is intentional. You are making a conscious decision to take care of yourself. So like what Marissa stated in the beginning, taking care of myself mentally, physically, and emotionally. So Marissa is making active decisions to physically help your physical health, emotional health, and so forth. So let's take a moment to just pause and reflect here. And I know we touched upon what are some ways that you all practice self-care. I saw it in the chat. But ask yourself if you make those intentional decisions, and what does intentional decisions to take care of yourself look like for you? Maybe it's you like to write in a planner and post-it notes. Maybe you're all about time management. Or maybe it's just, talking to yourself out loud in your mind. Maybe it's talking to a counselor, social worker, psychologist, or somebody to help you with it. And I know self-care can be tough, as we emphasized in the beginning. Maybe ask yourself, if you're having difficulties with self-care, what barriers specifically for you make it difficult? Perhaps it's you don't have access to certain things, especially right now with the pandemic. Perhaps how you used to do self-care, such as hanging out with your friends or going to XYZ place. And now you're unable to because of the pandemic, and you've had to change that. So a barrier could be change. All of these reflection questions are really good ways to help start to build that desire to change, to do self-care. And another way to do that is to ask yourself, why self-care? Why is it important? At Student Wellness, we say that when you feel well, you do well. And that's why self-care is important. You're more likely to achieve those goals and those reasons you're at college, at NIU perhaps. And you're more likely to have long-term success because you'll be healthy and well. And we also know that this is backed by science. We're all about science here, because according to the National College Health Association, the top 5 impediments or barriers that hinder academic performance is stress, anxiety, sleep, depression, and the cold and flu, with, I believe, stress is the top barrier. And so science is telling us that, well, stress impedes your performance. So if you learn to manage your stress and be more healthy and well, you're more likely to do well and perform. And we also know that some strategies for managing stress, such as substances, can actually make these impediments worse. And so what we know is that these barriers can all be managed through self-care. Another reason why self-care is important, because you are important, you matter, you're more than just a student. Your life isn't just classes and getting the grade and turning in that assignment. You're a family member, you're a partner, you're a teammate, you're a caregiver, and more. And so this is why it's important to show that self-care is important to you, because you value yourself. And so I know before we talked about positive self-talk, well, this could definitely be a part of it. Prioritizing yourself with self-compassion, being kind to yourself, and showing yourself that you matter and that you are important. One of the things that can help you with that is this phrase here, nourish to flourish, meaning if you nourish yourself now and help yourself grow now, you'll then be able to better flourish in the future. So I've talked about why self-care is important to you, but I want to take a moment. I want to ask you all, why is self-care important to you? So feel free to share what you'd like, but I'd like you to share in the chat again. Again, share what you're comfortable with, but why is self-care important to you? Why do you do self-care? Why does it matter? Okay, we're getting a couple of responses. Jalen says, it helps me relax when I'm having a hard time in school or in other areas of my life. Oh, for sure. Self-care can be so relaxing. Marissa says, it's important for me to connect with myself amidst all the things going on around me, recenter myself. Okay, so for Jalen, it's relaxing. For Marissa, it's help balance, harmony, recenter. Julie says, makes me not lose my marbles. That's a good way of describing it. It makes me a better person, friend, or student. Yes, excellent way of describing it, Julie. Because, I mean, this past year, I'm sure we've all lost our marbles multiple times. I know I'm still trying to collect all mine back together. And know that if you're in that same place, maybe you will find a marble that you lost before, and maybe you pick up a new one. The reason I ask this question is that asking yourself why it's important to you can really help you to build that motivation to go and do the thing. What is going to be the thing that's going to help you to prioritize self-care? What is that thing that's going to help you value the pros of self-care more than the cons of it? So for example, you'll see on the screen, we have, If you prioritize self-care, you could have more energy and focus for coursework and hobbies. On the other hand, prioritizing self-care means finding time in your busy schedule, and that can be stressful. So perhaps that desire to have more energy for your hobbies is what really drives you to outweigh the con of needing to prioritize your time. So really consider how strong that importance of self-care is for you. So like we did before, we're just going to take a moment to reflect. So first we talked about self-care, and remember, how do you define it? What does it look like and what does it mean to you? Is self-care important to you? If so, why or why not? And that's okay if it's not important to you right now. What are your top priorities right now, and how can you rearrange those so that you become your top priority and that your health and well-being comes at the top? That last one can be a really, really tricky question, so I would encourage you to really reflect on that one. So here's a question we get asked a lot, is that when do I need to practice self-care? Well, in an ideal world, we're going to say all the time. Of course, we don't live in an ideal world, but we say all the time because daily self-care can improve your overall well-being. It's better to be proactive rather than reactive, meaning you'll be better able to manage stress, for example, if you're constantly practicing stress management, rather than when you hit a breaking point of being really stressed and you're being reactive. You're taking care of yourself once it happens rather than taking care of yourself before it happens. And also, by practicing self-care all the time, it becomes a habit. And when things are habits, they're a lot easier to do rather than something that's not a habit. So since we don't live in an ideal world and practicing all the time can be difficult, I would like to throw the question back to you all then. When do you think it's important to practice self-care? What are the signs that your mind and body is telling you that it's time to practice self-care? And we are all different human beings, so we're all going to have different signs. So we're going to go through what some of those look like. And so essentially, self-care, to practice it, you want to practice it when your mind and body changes physically, behaviorally, so any like actions you do, emotionally, so feelings and such, and cognitively, so any thoughts. So consider how you usually feel physically, how your behaviors and actions usually are, emotionally and cognitively what your baseline is. Any changes in those are a good indication that I think it's time to practice some more self-care. So let's take a look at what some of those changes might be. Oh yeah, Julie knows what's up. Julie's saying that they know they need more self-care and they become more irritable and on edge. Yes, that is definitely one of the indicators. And I am certainly one of those people as well. Marissa is saying that their head hurts, they can't focus, irritable, short fused, no energy. I really feel like you're just describing me right now, but that's okay because we all experience some of these. So thank you both for sharing. Some other physical signs that you may experience could be headaches, low energy, any changes in sleep. So let's say you usually get maybe 6 to 7 hours, and then you notice that you're getting significantly more, or you're more tired lately, or perhaps you're getting significantly less. That could be a sign, practice more self-care. Perhaps you may have some digestive issues, or you're eating more or less, any tension. I know my shoulders get really tight, and weight changes. I know everyone's been talking about that COVID-15. I am totally in that category, and many people are. Big worldwide events such as a pandemic can lead to these changes. So some behavioral signs, so any changes in your usual actions could include procrastination. Perhaps you're not usually a procrastinator, and this past year you've becoming more of a procrastinator. Perhaps that's an indication, time to check in with yourself. Using more substances than you would usually, and perhaps any relationship troubles. I know that a lot of us are feeling distant from others because of COVID-19 and needing to be physically distant. So maybe just talking to your friends about how you all share that similar feeling can be a great self-care. So some emotional changes to your mood or emotions could be like what Julie and Marissa was saying, irritable, short-fused. Perhaps you're having more difficulties managing your mental health. So perhaps 1 month, you're totally fine. And then the next month, you're not managing it as well as you usually do. That could be a sign. Burnt out, overwhelmed, easily able to cry. Those are all signs. Kind of signs, so changes in the way that you think could be more forgetful, difficulty concentrating. Perhaps you're usually really creative or you're really funny, but now that's not really coming out. It's harder to make decisions. You're more worried and critical. Again, all signs. And the key thing I want you to take away from going through all of these symptoms is that which of these stand out to you? How do you know? When does your body tell you these things? So I got ahead of myself with the reflection questions. So when do you need to practice self-care? How do you know? What are your signs? All right, let's get into some of those strategies. So the very first one we always like to emphasize is taking care of your body is one of the best ways to practice self-care. And we like to break it down into 3 ways. The first is eating better. So let's say that you're starting to notice you're becoming irritable and you're getting a headache. Ask yourself, have I eaten well today? Have I eaten a balanced diet? When was the last time I ate? And start there. That could be an excellent way to just check in with yourself and to give your body what it needs. So, some ways to eat better, which would be eating balanced meals, get those fruits and veggies, drink lots and lots of water. I know I always have a insulated cup with water with me at all times. Maybe have some healthy snacks available. Nuts are a really good healthy snack to have available. If you can, like dried fruit or like cheese, you know, if you're able to refrigerate it. And avoid excessive use of alcohol and other drugs, as we know that can make your mental health concerns or stress a lot worse. Second way to take care of your body is to sleep well. Sleeping well is one of the best ways to manage stress because sleep is so important for you to learn to function and your body to heal and to fight off any illnesses you may be experiencing. So it's recommended to get 7 to 9 hours of consistent sleep at night for the average adult. We do encourage naps here. Naps are great, though you want to do only 15 to 20 minutes. Going past 20 minutes, you may jump into your sleep cycle, and waking up in that is not fun. You'll probably feel more groggy than before you even took your nap. I know the other day, I'm going to say I accidentally took a 3-hour nap. I say accidentally because I was really tired, and I woke up not feeling great. So even though I do know this knowledge, sleep is something that I continue to try to get better at. And the third way to really take care of your body is to move, to be active in some shape or form. So perhaps you're like me and you're not a fan of exercising or sports or moving in general, and that's okay because you just have to find your own way. I know for myself, I like to go outside on walks. I'll try to take the stairs as much as I can. My cats certainly help me to move more, especially when they climb things they're not supposed to. So find your own way to move more. Another strategy for self-care is to find connection. And so just having that buddy that you could talk to, and scheduling time to be social can be really helpful as well. I know with this time of everything being virtual, I would encourage you to really get creative virtually. I know I'm a big nerd over here, so my friends like to play D&D online or any online gaming. I know Among Us is really popular right now, or watching streamers, or maybe you watch a movie together online. There's plenty of platforms like that. Discover what you and your friends really like to do together and try that. And besides finding connection with others, it's really important to connect with yourself during these times and to just connect as a means of self-care. So some common examples would be meditating, journaling, a form of creative expression, so music, poetry, writing, drawing, painting, crafting, so forth. Taking some time to identify what's most important to you, such as your goals and values, can be a great reminder and a great way to reconnect with who you are. And finally, and last but not least, talking to somebody. Reach out to counseling services or a social worker or a psychologist, or perhaps just reaching out to your friends and letting them know how you're struggling, or your family can be very, very helpful. Like we discussed before, doing things that bring you joy and make you happy really can help one to feel recharged. On the screen, this is just a bunch of examples. I apologize if I'm missing one of your most joyful things on here. For example, I did not list marching bands on there. They make me extremely happy, but perhaps I'm missing something of yours that make you very happy. But truly, take time to pick out what is that thing that makes you really happy and do more of that. Like schedule it into your day, or find others who also find joy in that and talk with them. I promise you it will really help you to bring more energy into your life. Last but not least, I want to give you some helpful skills or last second tips for practicing self-care. As I emphasized in the beginning, it's really, really important to be intentional and have that active decision. I am taking time for myself because I am important. I am going to watch my favorite movie because I need time to recharge because my body was telling me I need it. Be intentional. We also like to talk about mindfulness and to be mindful when practicing self-care. So mindfulness is the ability to be fully present in the moment. And when you're doing that, you're non-judgmental and you're providing yourself with compassion. When we focus on the present, we're less likely to be focused on the past and the future, which often can cause a lot of stress and anxiety. For myself, my brain is a big fan of catastrophizing and thinking of all the super scary, non-realistic things that are going to happen in the future. When I take a second to pause and focus right here on the moment and what's right in front of me, I am able to take that catastrophizing and bring it back down. Thank you, Reese. I'm glad that you can relate. And I'm not the only one who likes to think of the impending doom. It could be very hard to reframe those thoughts, but focusing on the present, being compassionate to myself, and accepting things of where they are can be really helpful. Acknowledging imperfections and barriers. We can all be our biggest critics and really difficult on ourselves. But when we take a moment to acknowledge that we human beings, we are imperfect and we have many barriers in our lives that we can't move, then we're more likely to bring that stress level down about what is stressing us out or making it more difficult to practice self-care. So be kind to yourself and acknowledge that it's okay to be imperfect, as we all are. Learn to say no, set those boundaries. So if you really schedule that time for yourself to take care of yourself every week and you really need that, start practicing to say no and to kind of prioritize where you could say no to being asked certain things and putting more on your plate, and when it's okay to be flexible with that. So consider what areas of your life it's important to have more boundaries in and where they could be flexible. Develop a routine and habit. If you're really struggling with self-care, start thinking to yourself, how can I really develop practicing mindfulness as a routine in my daily life? Well, you know, I'm done with class around 3 o'clock and I have time before I go do X, Y, and Z. So maybe that is a good time. Really consider how you could develop a routine. I think I missed a chat. Let's see. Julie says, boundaries have improved my stress and anxiety. Also my relationships because I no longer held resentment towards someone for asking too much. Ooh, that is deep, Julie. Thank you for sharing. It's pretty easy to hold resentment towards someone if they keep asking too much of you, because you think to yourself, wait, don't you know that you're putting too much on my plate? And then you might get angry towards them. So thank you for sharing that. All right, 2 more helpful skills. The second to last one is to celebrate accomplishments. Self-care is quite the feat if you are really feeling stressed or you notice that your wellness is really low. Take time to celebrate those accomplishments of making the intentional decision to practice self-care. Let's say you said no for the first time when someone was asking too much of you. Take some time to celebrate that. Tell a friend, tell a family member, go get your favorite meal, watch your favorite show, take a day off if you can. Take a moment to celebrate your accomplishment. And last but not least, reach out for help. I couldn't encourage this more. Seeking help is not a sign of weakness. Self-care is not selfish. Reaching out to help can be really, really difficult, but at the other end, it can really help you to grow. And there are people there who are ready to support you and want to be there for you. So our final reflection questions are, the strategies that I've listed, do any of those work well for you? Or maybe there are some that I'm missing. Do you practice any of these already? And remember, self-care involves being intentional. So with that in mind, which of these can you see yourself realistically being able to do? Sure, it'd be great to dive into all of these right now, but where's a good start for you? Oh, look at that. I beat myself to the last question. Where is a good place for you to start, and what's going to be the best strategy for you? So we always like to identify some helpful resources here at the end. First and foremost, we are Student Wellness. If you have any questions, you can feel free to email us at bewell@niu.edu. We also have an online health and wellness magazine, which has all student-focused content, and the articles don't have like a bunch of fancy science words. They're pretty short, they're to the point, and they're all topics that really resonate with students. We also do presentation requests. So if you have a student organization or a class or so forth and you want a health and wellness presentation, feel free to reach out. And we are part of counseling and consultation services, so feel free to reach out to them at any time if you're looking for services such as individual counseling or group counseling services. Health services, the recreation center, the DRC, the writing center, and career services can also all help you with any of those areas of wellness. So take a look at their resources available if you're looking to improve in those areas. Last thing I wanted to tell you all about, so this was the first in our Coping Through COVID-19 series. We'll be meeting again in 2 weeks to talk about dating in the time of COVID. And then a couple weeks after that, you could see what the rest of our topics were going to be. Those are all on NIU calendar, so I would encourage you to check out those and save the link for that. If you are really interested and passionate about health and wellness and want to help others, we are looking to train some new peer health educators. So you could join our team and help other students learn about health and wellness. And we also have our very popular paint night coming up in a couple of weeks, and we do have a second one towards the end of the semester. But if you'd like to register for this free virtual guided painting event, feel free to email us and sign up. Now that's all I have to talk to you about today. I put a survey link in the chat. If you could please fill it out, it really, really helps us to improve what we do, get your feedback, and see how we can better help students and their wellness. But thank you all so much for being here. If you have any questions, I'm going to stick around, so you can either type a question in the chat, you could turn on your mic, but please take our survey, join us for our other events, and otherwise, be safe tonight and these next couple days. I know it's going to be quite the storm, but thank you all for your thank yous. I appreciate them very much. But thanks for joining. Thanks, Reese. We look forward to seeing you for our next one in a couple of weeks.